Julie Can't Cook is a channel on YouTube, and she had created a kind of a response video, an A to Z list of practices, healing practices that have helped her out. And then she had sort of asked everybody else to create a video. So this is really my first YouTube video. I've just never really been on YouTube, but I really felt that it resonated with me to make a video because it was in response to an A to Z list that Doreen Virtue had made. Now, Doreen Virtue is a New Age. If you're unfamiliar with Doreen Virtue or with A to Z list, Doreen Virtue is a New Age teacher that had converted to Christianity, and she made this list of practices that were New Age. Although I personally don't resonate with that term. I don't consider myself New Age. I don't consider myself religious, but I do practice some of the things on her list. So I really wanted to make a video as well, just to indicate positive things, because her list was more like a no-no list. She refers to devils and demons, and indicating that these practices lead you astray or stop you from experiencing God and such. And she's coming from a really religious background, which honestly, like I personally was a fundamentalist Christian for many years, and the list isn't new. I mean, I was, that was like 15 years ago, and almost the exact same list. There's a few new things on the list, but that list existed way back in the day. So I'm not really surprised about the list. It was more of like a copy and paste so that she had something to say against her old path. I mean, she wrote a lot of books. I never really got into Doreen Virtue's movement. I read a couple of her books and I was like, okay, I can see why people are drawn to it. It just didn't really fit with me. And I do have a couple of her card decks, but honestly, I don't even really use them that much. But I mean, I like them. I think they're really pretty. I have Angel Healing and Angel Therapy. And so, yeah, anyway. And I have one that she made with her son, Grant Virtue, that is indigo, an indigo like children oracle deck or something like that, but I've only used that a couple times. So anyway, but I created my own list of things that I have used that have helped me in my own healing process. So I'm going to just go through my list, A to Z. First A, affirmations. Doreen has that on her list, affirmations without God. Affirmations have been tremendous in my own healing process and practice. In fact, I put a star next to this, so I put a star next to a few of them in terms of these are things that have been crucial in my healing practice. Affirmations, like some affirmations that I use that have really helped me is, I do not need to earn love. I am lovable because I exist. That's been really helpful. I use that every day. I am open and receptive to all good. I use that just about every day. Let's see. I trust the process of life to bring me only good and positive experiences. I use that one about every day. If something seems to be going wrong or not my way, I usually start immediately saying, out of this situation, only good will come. There's an easy solution that serves everyone involved, and I am safe. So affirmations are simply a way to tell a more positive story about whatever you're going through, your situation. So I have affirmations on there. Angels I have on here because I have had several experiences with the angelic realm, and I feel like their energy is very healing. I actually, when I was a fundamentalist Christian, I actually had several experiences with angels. So it wasn't necessarily that I had changed anything in terms of the angelic realm when I went from Christianity to not believing in Christianity. A Course in Miracles I put on my list as well. A Course in Miracles is a channeled book that it's really a metaphysical book, and it's hard to explain A Course in Miracles because it's a practice. It's a meditative practice. There's 365 different meditations that go along with it. Then there's a course book that is written in iambic pentameter that talks about just the nature of reality. And then there's a teacher's guide that goes through different topics and discusses those from a metaphysical perspective. And the reason why I have it on my list is because A Course in Miracles has been one of the most transformative resources that I have used to transitioning from, a state of anxiety and fear to a state of love and peace. So, I don't know that it's necessarily for everyone, and really I would say A Course in Miracles teaches that it's not necessarily for everyone. In fact, I like the opening statement of Course in Miracles. It goes, I don't know if I'm going to say it exactly, but it says that this is A Course in Miracles. It is a required course. However, the time that you take it, and I don't know exactly, but it's like, essentially what it says, though, is that we are all going through A Course in Miracles. We're all reconciling ourselves back to the divine. And part of our human journey is about waking up to love and waking up to our divine nature, essentially. So, okay, so for B, I actually have the Bible, because I actually still use the Bible a lot. Now, I am not a biblical literalist, I'm not a fundamentalist, but there are elements within the Bible. I actually appreciate that the Bible is so contradictory, because to me, that's what got me out of Christianity. For example, the fundamentalist, Christian ideology. I was, I read the Bible several times. I was in Bible school. I actually went to 2 Bible schools, one seminary and one Bible school. And I could not really internally reconcile the things I was reading in the Bible and things I was observing in the religion of Christianity. So, but the Bible actually helped me. It was the contradictions themselves that helped me start asking the pertinent questions about the nature of reality. For example, there's one verse in the Bible that says, the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, and self-control. And through my observations, I didn't recognize that, or I could not recognize that the Christian religion actually answered that for me. And so, and for the people that I observed, even Jesus said, you'll know them by their fruits. Good trees do not produce bad fruits. Bad trees do not produce good fruits. So I observed people who held fundamentalist Christian ideology and theology and doctrine and dogma, and I did not see the fruit that was evident in terms of their, what they said was true, and then how they lived their lives. So, and so I just, that the Bible has actually helped me in many ways. I don't believe it helps everyone, especially if you're a fundamentalist. I don't believe everything in the Bible is literally true. I also don't take it all seriously. Even Jesus, throughout passages of the Old Testament, he would say, you've heard it was said, but then I tell you, so for example, he said, you've heard it was said, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, which is actually literal part of a law in the Old Testament. And then he said, but I tell you, love your enemies, pray for those who persecuted you. He literally was taking a scripture and ripping that page out and throwing it away. So, if you're, saying you're a follower of Jesus, and you are, and you have to take everything in the Bible literally, you're actually not following his lead when it comes to the Bible itself. So, but anyway, so I've found certain passages of the Bible to be helpful and useful in my own life. Okay, C, I have chakras, crystals, channeling, and Christ consciousness. I'm not really going to go into all of these. I can't really tell a story about all these, or it's going to be a 4-hour-long video. But I've experienced, in terms of the chakra system, I have experienced, a tremendous amount of empowerment and healing. Crystals, I really like crystals. I carry them around with me. I can sense, I sense their energy. I sense their healing presence. And so I use them a lot in my own personal practice. Channeling, A Course in Miracles is a channeled book. I just think that channeling is an intriguing method of connecting to spirit. And I also, I don't know, it has been useful for me in my own practices. Christ consciousness is recognizing the divinity within, and I just, I feel like that is a catalyst in my own healing process. For example, going back to the Bible says that let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus, who being in the image of God did not consider it robbery to be equal with God, meaning that he recognized his own divinity. He recognized, and then in Philippians they're saying, I think it's Philippians 2, they're saying recognize the divine within. Recognize that you are essentially God on the planet, that you're a part of God. So I'll go into that a little bit more in some of these other ones. Divination has been useful. Divination tools, which I have on here, so I'm not going to go into that. I have some divination tools on here that I use. Deconversion, my deconversion experience. So I was a fundamentalist Christian, and I was like really fundamentalist. Like, I am a gay man. I'm happily married now, but 15 years ago, I was told that I could go through conversion therapy, and that I would no longer be gay. So I went to Bible school. I was in full-time ministry. I did it all. I was literally invested. In fact, when I had my deconversion experience, when I started questioning things, I was so invested in what I was doing. Like, I gave up everything. I gave up my community, my family. I ended up homeless for like a whole day. I met someone in a coffee shop, and I just felt like I needed to talk to them. And so I went and I sat down next to them, and he actually started the conversation, and he mentioned, he said, well, what brought you to Kansas City? And I explained that I was going to school, and I didn't say anything about, deconversion, or even though I wouldn't have labeled it at that, but, that I was homeless, and I just got kicked out of Bible school, and I was living on campus, so now I'm in this really terrible position, and since I was in ministry full time, now I don't have, all of that stuff. Now I don't have any kind of income. And he said he said that, well, I moved here because I was going to a seminary, but I got kicked out because I'm gay. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I told him my whole story, and he invited me to live with him, 20 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever. I don't know. I didn't measure the time, but after meeting me. And so to me, that was a really cool kind of way that the divine took care of me. So my deconversion experience, I explained deconversion. A lot of people go from Christianity to atheism, and that just wasn't my experience. I still feel very connected. Now, I don't know, I would never argue for God, meaning that I don't feel like I need to convert or convince anyone of anything. So, if I encounter an atheist, I'm like, cool, if that's bringing you a sense of love, joy, and peace, since that's the fruit of the Spirit, that's great, cool, but my deconversion experience was kind of untangling this big knot, and I still go through times where I'm untangling, and I'll actually talk about that when I get to animal totems, which I know sounds weird, but we'll see what happens there. At dreams have been very healing. Interpreting dreams, learning more about dreams, learning how my dreams can, bring healing, or they can speak messages. That's been very useful for me. Empowerment. Now, I put a star next to empowerment because, to me, empowerment is one of the most important things. I was talking about that verse in Philippians, let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus. Anyway, so that's essentially empowerment, knowing who you are and recognizing that you have the ability to create your own story, see, the thing is all of these other things that I list on here, if I have known people to use some of these things, like divination, to disempower them. They put all of their personal power into those things. I would not recommend that at all. In fact, if you're using things like astrology or divination, oracle cards, and you're putting all of your power, you have to run to them, I would recommend against that. It is important for you to recognize who you are, and then everything else can support your empowerment. That's a great thing. But even Christianity, I'm not anti-Christianity. I am just not a Christian. If your Christianity is identifying with Jesus and it creates a greater sense of compassion and love and, healing and hope for other people and yourself, that's great. If your version of Christianity is just, I'm a horrible sinner and so is everybody else, and I have to, go convert everybody, okay, cool, that's where you're at, but I don't see how that creates the fruit of the Spirit, nor do I really see how it resonates with Jesus's teachings at all, so personally. And that's somebody who, I went to seminary and I went to Bible school, so I'm just telling you, it doesn't really resonate with me. Let's see, energy healing. I've had really good experiences with energy healing in terms of healing physical conditions. Not just as complementary, but like I've had experiences where I was injured and energy healing kind of took care of it. So I've had good experiences there. EFT, I have EFT on here, which is emotional freedom technique, and that is a form of, it's usually generalized as tapping. EFT is where you have specific energy points throughout the body, and you usually have a, it's a talking type energy therapy. It's a talk, so anyway, just look up. It has worked well for me in especially if I'm in where I've had anxiety or things in the past. It has helped me out of those particular mindsets. So EFT is one that I have on my list. Forgiveness is one that I have on my list, and to me, this is one of those stars that I put next to things that this is a crucial thing. Being able to forgive and let go of the past. Now, I do not believe that forgiveness is saying that the other people are right, or saying that they're justified in mistreating you. I don't believe that that's true at all. Forgiveness is saying I'm not going to let the past influence my present moment any longer, or influence my future. I'm not going to be trapped in my past. I will tell you, Louise Hay, who I have on my list, is one of the people that have been, such a wonderful teacher for me. She says that if you don't know how to forgive, just say that you're willing to forgive. And she also says, which I believe true, it is the person that you don't want to forgive the most, that's who you need to forgive the most. Because when you're trapped in a story of being a victim, you just stay a victim, and you're just a victim your whole life. And it's very disempowering, and the only thing that you're doing is giving power to, like for me, it was the people in conversion therapy. It was the people in the evangelical tradition. It was the people that really mistreated me. I mean, I'm telling you, my experiences, so they were abusive. To me, there is a such thing as religious trauma syndrome. I know that Julie Can't Cook talks about it, and I really hope she talks about it a little bit more. I didn't know that term when I was working through my own issues, but I will tell you, forgiveness has been a crucial thing for me to be able to move beyond my past and really, recognize that those people were doing the best that they could in whatever, with the understanding and awareness that they had. Self-forgiveness, I really highly recommend that if you're holding onto issues that, where you can't let go of the past, if you've really done something that's so horrible that you're having it hard, if you're finding it hard to forgive yourself, don't do that thing again and let it go. Let it go. So yeah. So forgiveness is a huge one for me. Oh, and if you feel like you can't forgive, this is what I was going to say. If you feel like you can't forgive, just say, I'm willing to forgive. And really the universe will pick that up, and your subconscious mind will pick that up and do the work for you and help you through that. Whether it's through, being able to have dreams and reconciling the emotional connection that you have with the past that way. I mean, there's many methodologies in terms of how to release the past. So just being open and willing to forgive really just that's really forgiveness anyway. So for G, I have gratitude list. There was a time when I was really depressed. This was like 10 years ago. I mean, like really bad, like clinically taking medicine wasn't working, depressed. And so what I did was I decided, I'm going to make a gratitude list. I'm going to list, I think I did 50 things. Now this was like 10 years ago, so I'm not exactly sure, but I did either 25 or 50 things every day. And I had to pick 25 or 50 things within the day, and it couldn't be a generalized thing like, I'm thankful that I'm breathing. I'm thankful that my heart is beating. I mean really specific things within my day that I was grateful for. And before I went to bed, and I did this I think for 30 days, and before I went to bed I wrote out all of those things that I was grateful for. I went over my day, and I will tell you, writing a gratitude list was very transformative in allowing me to recognize the things that were in my life that could uplift me. So I highly, in terms of a healing practice, I highly recommend doing a gratitude list. And you don't necessarily have to be clinically depressed to do this. I don't do it every day anymore, but I still do it periodically, especially if I'm having a rough time. Like if I'm, something doesn't seem like it's working out. I start out with the affirmation that I already mentioned: out of this situation, only good will come. There is an easy solution for every situation, and I am safe is what I usually add at the end of all of my affirmations, because safety has been an issue with me. I was trained I was trained from a little kid to believe that demons are out to get me, the devil's out to get me, everything that is not Christian is evil, and I was literally taught as a child that they were going to come and get me because I'm a Christian and cut my head off. Like, I was literally taught that. So, so anyway, gratitude list. That has nothing to do with gratitude list. I don't know. Anyway, that was just a bunny trail. But I will tell you, a gratitude list is something I highly recommend. It's a wonderful tool to help you get out of any sort of negative energy. I was saying that because of that. I am safe, and I am safe. So. Let's see. Graphology is another thing I have on there. There is this book by Vimala Rogers called Your Handwriting Can Change Your Life. I actually got a kit. Somebody gave me a kit that had like a little journal, and and she recommended doing like one letter on an area that you were having a hard time with. Now, I have not done the graphology teaching that she did for a while, but I know back 10 years ago when I was going through the major deconversion, this was one of the things that really helped me out a lot. And it's funny, I'm looking at my journal, and a lot of I still use the way that I trained my hand to write those certain letters. I still write them that way, so I think that's kind of funny. Anyway, let's see. So, graphology. H, holistic healing. Paying attention to the mind, body, and spirit I feel like is crucially important. One of the things that happened to me when I was in my deconversion experience is I became very sick, and they couldn't figure out why I was sick. My liver was enlarged, my spleen was enlarged, and it was, and I was just very sick all the time. I was sleeping like, 12, 13 hours a night. I had absolutely no energy. This was actually how I got into Louise Hay's work, is because I started using affirmations, and then I started looking at other practices because I was on like, I don't remember exactly how many, but at least 10 medications. I was on steroids all the time for like 6 months. I was a maniac. Like, it was just a really rough time, and nothing was causing my spleen and my liver to go back into a normal state. And so I started out with the mind, and I started doing, from the book You Can Heal Your Life, I started doing the affirmations for the issues that I was experiencing, and I did them over and over and over. So that's the mind. And then the body, I actually went to some holistic practitioners, and Chinese medicine was very helpful in that. What Western medicine wanted to do is keep me on. The body work that I did was, I found practitioners like in Chinese medicine, because I was saying Western medicine, all they wanted to do was cut out my spleen, cut out part of my liver, and then I would probably have to be on dialysis. And I was like, well, if we do that, I'll just die. Like, that will just literally kill me. And I was, I think, 26 or 27 at the time. And so I started going to see an acupuncturist, shiatsu therapist, and I actually started out with a reflexologist who had recommended the other two. So she said, well, why don't you try this out? Okay, I'll talk about reflexology when I get to the R's. But anyway, so treating the body, and then spirit, really getting myself clear and meditating and, in a state of peace, and really finding the ways to be in what the Bible calls the fruit of the Spirit: love and joy and peace and patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, and self-control. Doing practices that kept me in that flow was crucial to my healing, and I didn't need surgery. In fact, I didn't need the medicine anymore that they were saying, well, this is really what you need, that's going to keep you alive. And so yeah, treating the mind, body, and spirit, I feel, is very important. I also have on my H's Ho'oponopono. Now, I actually use Ho'oponopono all the time, like every day, except for when I'm actually talking, so I'm not using it right this moment. But if I'm talking to somebody else, Ho'oponopono is a prayer. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. It's like a mantra. I use it all the time, but I usually just use I love you, thank you, I love you, thank you, I love you, thank you. And then if I'm experiencing something that's challenging, then I'll go into I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. And I have found it useful. You know, I'm not saying that these practices are for everyone, but you might want to look that one up. It's Ho'oponopono, that's what it's called. Let's see, inner child work for I did a lot of inner child work with a therapist that really helped me through my deconversion process, through just finding a sense of peace from some of the trauma I experienced from religion as a child. Okay, so I have under the eyes Insight Timer. It is a meditation app that you can find on Android or on Apple, and I highly recommend that if you want to cultivate some sort of meditation practice, get on the app. Almost everything on the app is free. In fact, the music content that, they have got lots and lots of contributors. You can listen to those for free. You can send them a donation if you want to, but you do not have to. There is, it's developed around community, although you don't have to use the app to join the community. I have found that being a part of the community has helped me personally in developing my own meditation practices. So there are groups, but you don't have to join them. But just having the app for the meditations themselves is very useful. So Insight Timer is another one that I highly recommend you go get. You can just download it to your phone and get started. It's really easy. All right, for K, I have kindness. That's one of the fruit of the spirits. I think I already talked about it, and since this video is going to be kind of long, I'm going to just be kind. Be kind to one another. Okay. L, I didn't have anything. M, meditation, which I just talked about a little bit with Insight Timer. Meditation, it's a good thing. I'll just say that. Metta meditation. Okay, so I want to talk about this one just briefly. It is a loving kindness meditation that includes yourself, another person, and then the whole planet. And I just recommend you looking it up. It's a wonderful practice. I actually do metta meditation separate from my regular meditation practice because it's just been a part of my own spiritual growth. Mandalas is another thing that I have on this list. When I was going through my deconversion process, I was really into making mandalas through sacred geometry and then painting them. And I feel like they helped me through my own, they just helped me work through my own things and got my mind, it helped realign my mind. Mantras, I sort of mentioned that with Ho'oponopono. The one that I use over all day, every day when I'm talking to people is I love you, thank you, I love you, thank you, I love you. I don't say it out loud, I do it in my mind. And I have seen I've seen some pretty cool things happen as a result of doing that, personally. So, and I don't know if it was a result of doing that, but I attribute it to it because when I, especially if I'm experiencing something challenging, I'm always pretty amazed. I start out with the affirmation, out of this situation, only good will come, there is an easy solution that serves everyone involved and I am safe. Then I immediately go into Ho'oponopono, and, it's amazing to me how quickly things seem to resolve themselves. So, anyway, mantras is something that I've used for healing. Mirror work. Just do a Google search for mirror work online. This is a practice that Louise Hay, I don't think she originated it, but she definitely pushed it a lot. And it is looking in a mirror and saying, I love you. So for me, I love you, James, exactly as you are. And seeing your responses and doing other affirmations in the mirror. Although that one to me was the most profound, especially since I did it for a year and a half and didn't believe it. And what happens is you experience the emotion, the contradiction that's inside of you. And then you can start asking, well, why don't I feel that way? Why don't I love myself? And then you can write down why you don't love yourself. And then you can create an alternative affirmation for that. So for example, I don't love myself because I don't know, I can't think of anything offhand. But anyway, I really recommend mirror work. You can look it up online. Lots of information, lots of free information online about it. It's really helpful. I recommend getting up in the morning and going to the mirror first thing when your hair's a mess, before you brushed your teeth, and saying, I love you with your name exactly as you are. Because I said it enough to where I just started believing it. And once I believed it, that really changed everything. Once I truly got to the place where I didn't need to be right, I didn't need everything to be perfect for me to love myself. Because the thing is like, you can accept and love yourself and still make positive changes. I think that, for so long I beat myself up. And I mean, really, the Christian church taught me to beat myself up. I'm a horrible sinner, and only Jesus can fix me. Only God can fix me. And it's funny because I never really changed when there were changes that were made, but they were always like guilt-driven. And I'll tell you, guilt-driven changes are unsustainable. It is love-driven changes that are sustainable in life. So that's just, I don't have any empirical evidence to say that that's true, but I will tell you it's true in my life, so I recommend it. Alright, so mirror work. And numerology, I have found that useful. O, oracle cards. P, okay, so I have pantheism down here, and I have it down here for a reason. To me, being able to recognize everything that I'm experiencing as God, including the contradictions. So, like from a Course in Miracles perspective, the actions and behaviors of others are either loving or a call for love. So when someone is acting contrary to love, it's actually a call for love. It's a desire to feel that contentment of love. And so pantheism, to me, is a way that that I am enmeshed in the presence of God at all times, in whatever I'm experiencing, with whomever I'm experiencing it with. That's what pantheism, I think people get confused with pantheism and polytheism. Okay, so pantheism certainly allows for other deities other than just one, but it doesn't prescribe other deities. So in pantheism, everything is divine. In polytheism, there's usually pantheons, which is I think why people get it confused, of gods usually, where there's a hierarchical system of different deities. They're actually they're different in terms from a theological perspective. So I do consider myself a pantheist, and being a pantheist and believing that I am in the center of God's will at all time, regardless of what I'm going through, that I can just trust that since this is what is happening, that I can attribute it to the divine. Now the thing is I feel like with that, I feel like creating a positive story is important, like through either emotional freedom technique or affirmations, or there are other techniques, visioning, visualizations, those types of things that can help people. So anyway, I do have pantheism on there because it was helpful for me to have a worldview like that. Not that I'm saying that it's even the right worldview or the only worldview, but to recognize that this entire universe, that I am always in the center of God's love, and that so is everyone else, has helped me, and that I can never be separated from that. That has been a healing thing, moving from God is this other, and I mean I guess you could call this oneness too, so I could have put it in the O's. But yeah, God is the other, and then I need to be saved by God, or I need to find a way to connect to God. Whereas if through this belief, if I'm having a conversation with you, I'm experiencing God through you. So anyway, pendulums, I do use pendulums for healing. Another thing I want to say with pendulums is I've met people that they have to consult their pendulum for everything, and I would say that to me would be that in my mind is disempowering, so I wouldn't recommend using pendulums that way. Even though occasionally I will have a question and I will feel like I'm okay, going to the pendulum might help. I don't recommend that necessarily for for every question that I have. The same way with tarot cards and oracle cards, because I have both of those on here. Okay, so question, Q. There were XYZ. I don't have anything. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, but Q, I have something. Questioning. Being able to question. Because I was raised in a culture where questioning was evil. Being wrong was evil. In the way that I was raised, and you couldn't, like, if you, like, questioning was okay in a certain sense. Like, I was able to ask a question, but when I wasn't given an answer that was adequate to me, if I asked again, then the grace was gone for that question. For instance, the hell, the ideology or the theology of hell, the belief that there is some sort of place in the future that people who don't accept our particular religion go. That just never really resonated. So it's something I always question, but like I felt bad for questioning it at one point because I wasn't allowed to question, and if I questioned it verbally, then it was okay to do it one time, and usually people would give you a bad answer, like, and I'm talking about my professors at university, but like, well, it's God's wrath, and God is multidimensional, and or whatever. It's a part of God that God, it's their choice to be separated from God or whatever. And that never, the pad theological answers just didn't really satisfy me or satiate my questions. So being able to question and being able to not know things and not know everything is really a freeing thing. Like, I can accept the world and reality and the universe as, somewhat of a mystery and still have this wonderful list of things that have helped me. So anyway, so questioning I have on the list. R, reflexology, I already kind of gave that story. S, spirit guides have been being able to connect to spirit through guides. That's been helpful. And I want to specifically mention spirit animals, animal totems, sometimes they're called or whatever. I had this one time when I saw a porcupine, and this is actually a thought field therapy, which is T. So I'm gonna put thought field therapy on here as well. Thought field therapy is kind of like the how emotional freedom technique developed. So thought field therapy doesn't use words; it just uses the meridian system in Chinese medicine to clear out emotional, like, stuck energy. Okay, so now that I've explained it, I had this one time when I had I saw a porcupine, and porcupines would mean it would represent a need to forgive the self, self-guilt, self-shame, that sort of thing. And the funny thing is when I first saw the porcupine, I was like, I don't know, really. I felt like that the animal itself was speaking that to me. But then I'm like, how? Like, what? I didn't really get it. And so what I did was I started using the technique with thought field therapy to release shame and guilt. And when I started doing that, I did that for like the whole day. I would go through. So they have different sets of things that you can go through for different things that you're experiencing. They're called algorithms. I don't want to go into it too much, but they're different. Like, so if you're experiencing addiction, that would be a different technique. I mean, it would be using the same Mediterranean meridians, but same meridian system, but you may tap on different spots. So an algorithm is where you would tap for a particular issue. So I did the one for guilt and shame, and I did it all day long, still had no idea. Then I went to bed that night, and then I had this dream where I was standing naked in the church that I grew up in, and I just felt like I just was not worthy, and everyone was kind of accusing me and all this stuff. I don't want to go into the dream too much. I woke up, I was I was just in terror. I was in extreme anxiety. And so and then I remembered, wait a minute, I saw the animal guide, and then I did the tapping, and now I had this dream. So I started writing it out, and I started writing down the symbols and what they all meant to me. And by the time I got done journaling out that dream, I felt free like I had not felt before in my life. So that goes over animal totems, and TFT. Tarot, I do like the story of tarot, how the story can be applied to circumstances and how it can be useful for as a divination practice. But again, I don't give your power over it, because I do know some people that they have to consult the tarot for everything. And not that, fine, if you want to do that, that's fine. But if it's disempowering you, if you feel like this, okay, so this is my litmus test on if I need to step back and use something in more moderation, or get rid of it altogether, is if I feel anxious and need to do it, that's probably a good sign that it's not a practice that's going to be beneficial. Because the whole point of these practices is to get into a state of energetic alignment so that you don't have to feel anxious. So if you feel like something is happening in your life and you have to run to the tarot system or the pendulum or an oracle card or whatever, those can be wonderful things, but if they're causing a sense of anxiety, I wanted to tell you this. Okay, so I have visualization on here as well. Visualization can also be a way that people can disempower themselves. When I work with my clients, okay, so I do spiritual counseling, and I do readings for people. And so I worked with a lot of people where I have told them, I really get that you need to stop visualization. And I usually find out what has taken place is they have visualized from the time that they got up in the morning to the time that they went to bed about something that it wasn't even remotely close to reality. It was so far off to reality. So what they had done is they created an emotional attachment to something that was not based in reality at all. And that particular fantasy, because their reality, when they would come back to reality and try to be present, since they didn't see anything that was remotely close to what they were visualizing, they would end up in this state of anxiety and fear. So anyway, anything that you use that disempowers you, even if it works for other people, it's not for you. So if you feel about something, I would begin to ask that particular emotion, what is it that I'm doing that isn't really working for me? With visualization, what I tell people to do, and this is how I do it too, because I actually use visualization. I don't tend to use it every day, but like I put a timer on. If I'm going to visualize something, like let's say I have a desire, I want something to happen, I use visualization. I will use it for 5 minutes or a few minutes a day, and then I say limit it to at least 5 minutes. And so, and then I give it to the universe and I say, okay, that's coming. I'm good. I can expect it. And then I move on. And I find my sense of the fruit of the Spirit in the moment that I'm in. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, and self-control. Okay, so, I have universalism, which is a theological belief similar to like when I was talking about pantheism. But universalism has been healing for me in a sense that it has allowed me to pull from many traditions, that it's okay for me to pull from many traditions. Universalism, I was talking about the Bible before and how the Bible has actually been, I still use the Bible. Things are still very useful for me to, things I've learned have been useful in my own development, my own sense of, serenity and being able to love people and loving myself, those types of things. So anyway, universalism, being able to just recognize that you can find truth in a lot of different things. You can even find truth in things that are contradictory. For example, when I feel anxiety, I ask myself, I trust my feelings. I've learned to become friends with all of my feelings because, I feel my feelings are really telling me when I am inside of alignment with what I desire, outside of alignment with desire. So even when I was, when my dad had passed away and I was grieving over that, the grief itself, I was grieving over the loss, the physical, the loss of the physicality of my father, But I didn't necessarily, I believe that my dad was around me, and there was a sense of loss that physically he was no longer around me. And the emotion that I was experiencing, the sadness that I was experiencing, taught me to connect with him in a different way. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess I could have put mediumship on there, although I'm not really I'm not a medium. I don't really do that type of work. Although it has come up in some of my, with some of my clients for some reason, it comes up, and but if somebody were to just come to me and say, "Would you give me a mediumship reading?" I would probably say no, because that's not what I do. But anyway, that was kind of a tangent. But yeah, so universalism. I totally got away from that. But all right, vision boards. Okay, so this is one I have taught a lot of people how to do it. I've used it a few times, but there was really only one time when I was like all in, and in the end, I don't know why I haven't used it more, because it was so effective. But I have this one vision board story and I don't do vision boards a lot, but I did this one a few years back. I really wanted to go to a conference, and it was like, I think the tickets were like $1,400, and I could have done it, but I was like, well, it's really expensive, and it was really, I just wanted to go. There were like 8 speakers, and I just wanted to go see one speaker, and so I did a vision board, and I put her, I'm not going to tell you who it is, but I put her picture on the vision board. And I mean, she's really well known. She's a New York Times bestselling author. And so I put her picture on the vision board, and I just kind of let it sit there, and I was like, okay, I am gonna go there. So I'm sure that there were thousands of people at this conference. Well, what ended up happening, I did not go to the conference, which I was totally okay with. I had a speaking engagement, and I was going out and speaking, and I knew there was going to be, I was a little nervous about it, and I hadn't done a lot of it, and somehow I had a dialogue with her about this, and I mean, it just was happenstance, the way that everything just kind of fell in place. She was like, well, how about I do some coaching sessions with you to get you ready for the speaking engagement? And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Okay, so this was way better than the conference, because I literally got to have one-on-one time where there would have been, either hundreds or thousands. I'm not sure how many people attended that conference, but there would have been a lot of people. There's no way I would have ever had one-on-one experience. So I got to gain wisdom and coaching and teaching from this person that I didn't. I don't really like elevating people. I think that's one of the issues with Doreen Virtue that took place that was really harmful. But I mean, I was still surprised, because I really liked what she had to say, and I really wanted to see her at the conference, put her on the vision board, and for the conference, and something totally different happened that I was much happier with. So I do think vision boards can be a wonderful thing. I think that too. Okay, so this would go back to empowerment. See, I did the vision board because I really wanted to go to the conference, and I really was just like, okay, if I'm supposed to go to this conference, the money will just come to me in a really organic way. I won't have to, in a unique way. Like, I just had expected that, okay, this money will just be there, and it will be. I won't even have to like pull from a savings account or anything. It would just appear, essentially, which has happened to me many times. The experience that I had was way better than that. So anyway, yeah, this is my A to Z list. I would love to see more of these A to Z lists. There's been a lot of videos about Doreen Virtue, and I had mentioned, I think one of the problems is people had elevated Doreen almost into an idolatrous place where she was the source of information, and now she's not. Another thing, being in Christianity, Christianity has always reminded me of, there's this line in the musical Wicked where the wizard, who wasn't the greatest guy in Wicked, if you haven't seen Wicked, but the wizard was talking to Elphaba, who in the original Wizard of Oz, the Wicked Witch of the West, and he was trying to convert her onto his side, and she was hated by all the people, and he said, he was singing, the most celebrated are the rehabilitated, there'll be such a hoop-dee-doo. Anyway, so that's true with Christianity. So, like, I came from being gay. I was gay. Okay, so this is how I grew up Christian, and then I was like, okay, I'm gay. This does not fit with Christianity. I didn't know anything about conversion therapy because I lived in a small town, and so I was just like, I'm just going to be gay, and I'm just going to, whatever. Christianity is kind of... And then I had some things happen to where I was hit by a car. I had to go through recovery, and then I thought, oh, God is punishing me, and so I went to conversion therapy, and became like this, like I tried to be the super Christian, you know, because I grew up very fundamentalist. So that's kind of like what had happened to me, and I was in conversion therapy, reparative therapy for 5 years. But anyway, one thing I learned from that is when you're in a Christian community, and you come from a different community, you then become the expert about that community. And that's really, I want people to understand that with the Doreen Virtue list, is that's really what's going on with her. Her list wasn't for you, although I do feel like there were some digs to Hay House in that list. For example, tapping. She had tapping on there, but she didn't have any other meridian therapy. And I don't want to dig on Doreen Virtue, but I do want to mention this. She didn't have acupuncture. She didn't have acupressure. But tapping is something that Hay House, her old publisher, has a lot of books about. And so she has that on the list, and it's kind of like arbitrary. It doesn't really make sense with her list. And so anyway, but I believe that her particular list was not for people who are in the New Age. Even though I'm not in the New Age, I don't really consider myself New Age, but it wasn't for people like that. It was for the Christians, because she is now an expert in that field. So if you were a Buddhist and you became a Christian, in Christianity, you would then become an expert on Buddhism. And it's the same. I mean, at least that was my experience. I was the expert. People would have me go to their church and tell my testimony about being gay. And it wasn't, I mean, first of all, I was gay in my teenage years, and who really has it all together in their teenage years? I was 21 when I went to conversion therapy for the first time. I didn't know anything. But people would have me come to their churches and talk about what it's like to be gay. Well, come on, I didn't even really have I didn't have like a real substantial experience. Like now, if people were to ask me, like, well, I've been married to my husband since it's been legal, and we were together for several years before that, and it's a wonderful thing, and we have this wonderful, loving, balanced relationship. In fact, I know a lot of people, and I have observed their relationships, and I can tell you, my relationship is the best relationship out of everyone that I know, and I don't mean that to be boastful. It's just true. I married the kindest man on the planet, So anyway, so my story is different now, but that's one of the things that I really feel like is taking place, is she needs to fully separate herself from the New Age to have some sort of voice in Christianity. So I just want people to at least consider that. I've talked to Doreen since her conversion a few times. I feel like she's genuine. I don't feel like this is a money thing. I mean, you can take it for what it is, but yeah. So I just wanted to put that part out there, and I would love to, like I said, I would love to see your list or hear your list. So you can, if you do one, put it in the comments below so that I can see it if anybody watches the video. Like I said, it's my first one. So anyway, I'm gonna end this with all is well, and I love you, and yeah, thank you.